Hydrogeology. Hydrogeology. Hydrogeology is the branch of geology that deals with the study of occurrence, movement, and quality of water beneath the Earth's surface. Groundwater or subsurface water. Groundwater is water that exists in pore space and fracture in rocks and sediments beneath the Earth's surface. It originates at rainfall or snow and then moves through the soil and rock into the groundwater system, where it eventually makes its way back to the surface, streams, lakes, or ocean. Major sources of groundwater are precipitation, surface water like rivers, streams, ponds, etc., and irrigation. Hydrological cycle. Water keeps moving and changing from a solid to liquid to gas repeatedly. Water evaporates and travels into the air and becomes part of a cloud. It falls down to the earth as precipitation. Rainwater infiltrates into the ground and sinks into the saturated zone, where it becomes groundwater. Groundwater slowly moves from place to high elevation and pressure to place with low elevation and pressure. It moves from the area of infiltration through an aquifer and out to a discharge area, which can be either a sea or an ocean. Precipitation creates runoff that travels over the ground surface and helps to fill lakes and rivers. High precipitation occurs near oceans or lakes, large bodies of water that allow more water to evaporate and form cloud. Water area receive less often less. Often these areas are far from seawater or near mountains. As clouds move up and over a mountain, the water vapor condenses to form precipitation and freezes. Snowfall on the peaks. This is a continuous and repeated cycle. Occurrence of subsurface water. The groundwater is classified into two zones based on occurrence of subsurface water, which is as follows: zone of aeration or padus zone, saturation zone or groundwater zone. Zone of aeration or padus zone. Water unsaturated zone consists of air and water. Water cannot be extracted. Further divided into three zones, that is soil water zone, intermediate zone, subsoil zone, and capillary zone. Saturated zone or groundwater zone. Groundwater extraction zone, fully saturated. Factors controlling occurrence and movement of groundwater. Climate, topography, porosity, permeability, hydraulic gradient, hydraulic conductivity. Porosity. Porosity is the percentage of rock or soil that is a void of material. The larger the pore space or the greater their number, the higher the porosity and the larger the water holding capacity. It is denoted by psi. Mathematically, porosity is given by porosity psi is equal to volume of void small b by total volume capital B into 100%, where psi is the porosity percentage, small b is the volume of void, capital B is the total volume. There are two types of porosity, that is primary porosity and secondary porosity. Primary porosity is developed during the deposition of sediments, whereas the secondary porosity developed after the formation of rocks such as joint, crack, etc. Primary porosity occurs mostly in the sediments, whereas secondary porosity is related with igneous or metamorphic rock. Sorting and grain shape are the major factors affecting porosity. Well sorted sediments have greater porosity than poorly sorted sediments. Angular grained sediments tends to have low porosity, as most of the voids between are filled with fine sediments than around it. Porosity in different sediments. Porosity in different sediments or rock sediment or porosity. Rock sediment porosity. Sandstone 5 to 15%, shale 1 to 10%, limestone or dolomite 5 to 15%, sand or gravel 24 to 55%, clay 34 to 60%, slate 34 to 61%. Hydraulic gradient I. The head difference between 2 points and its length is known as hydraulic gradient. It is a specific measurement of water pressure. Mathematically, hydraulic gradient I is equal to H1 minus H2 by L. H1 minus H2 whole by L. Hydraulic conductivity K. Hydraulic conductivity can be defined as the rate of movement of water through a porous medium such as soil or aquifer. Permeability and hydraulic conductivity are nearly similar. The difference is permeability mainly related with sediments, whereas hydraulic conductivity related with the behavior of fluid and sediments. It is measured in meters per day or meters per second. Darcy law. The rate at which groundwater moves through the saturated zone depends on the permeability of the rock and the hydraulic gradient. The hydraulic gradient is defined as the difference in elevation divided by the distance between 2 points on the water table. Velocity P is then P is equal to K H1 H2 minus H1 whole by L, where K is the coefficient of permeability. If we multiply this expression by area A through which the water is moving, then we get the discharge Q. Q is equal to A K H2 minus H1 whole by L, which is Darcy law. Aquifer. Aquifer, water bearing layer of the rock or sediment that store water and can transmit sufficient quantity. The amount of water that can hold depends upon the volume of fluids that present in aquifer, and the ability of an aquifer to transmit water depend on permeability. It is also known as groundwater reservoir. Examples: sand and gravel water, limestone, etc. There are three types of aquifer which is described below: unconfined aquifer, confined aquifer, liquid aquifer. Unconfined aquifer. An aquifer lies between zone of aeration and impermeable layer or strata under atmospheric pressure are known as unconfined aquifer. The imaginary line between vadose zone and the zone of saturation is known as water table. Water table nearly follows the topography. Confined aquifer. An aquifer sandwiched between impermeable layer or strata confined under pressure greater than atmospheric pressure is known as confined aquifer. It is also known as pressure aquifer or artesian aquifer, or region supplying water to confined aquifer is known as recharge area. An imaginary line that connects the points to which water will rise in well is known as piezometric surface. It is similar with water table of unconfined aquifer. Confining weight. An impermeable or less permeable layer that stops or retards the movement of groundwater into and out of it is known as confining weight. Confining weight is classified into three types: aquiclute, aquitard, and aquifuse. Aquiclute, a layer or strata having good storage capacity of water but doesn't yield significant volume of water. Aquiclute mainly have low porosity and low permeability. Example: clay bed. Aquitard, a partly permeable layer or strata that hold water but transmits in slow rate. Aquitard mainly have moderate porosity but low permeability. Example: sandy layer in clay bed. Aquifuse, the layer that neither store water nor transmit is known as aquifuse. Example: granite, basalt, etc. Artesian well. If the water level in the well driven in a confined aquifer will freely flow below without the aid of pump, such type of well is called artesian well. Springs, a natural flow of groundwater from underground through pores, cracks, joints, or falls where water table intersects ground surface. Depression springs are formed at ground surface when water table reaches the surface due to topographic undulations. Discharge flow may be seasonal. Figure A. Contact springs are formed where permeable rock overlie rock of low permeability. A lithological contact is usually marked by a line of springs. Figure B. Artesian springs are formed due to the release of water under pressure of confining weight. Figure number C. Fracture springs occur due to existence of jointed or permeable fracture zone in low permeability rocks. Movement of groundwater is mainly through fractures and cracks. Springs are formed where these fractures intersect the land surface. Figure number D. River channel morphology. A river, a natural path defined by the flow of water, is known as river. Rivers are mostly originated from high hills or mountains. Some small rivers in mountains or hills are called streams, rivulets, or tributaries. Major sources of groundwater are glacial melting, groundwater, and precipitation. When the river flows, the major geological action or the function carried by the river are erosion, transportation, and deposition. Erosion, the process of breaking down or wearing of rock due to geomorphic agents like moving water, glacier melts, and blowing weight is known as erosion. Running water is one of the most significant erosional process. The process of erosion operates both lateral erosion as well as down cutting, also called vertical scouring. Not only does the action of moving water itself erode soil and rock, sediment transported by running water abrades the surface that the water contacts. Specifically, rivers, streams, and waves transport various sizes of clay, slate, sand, and gravel, and even cobbles and boulders at time. As these materials are swept along by the river, they grind against one another and any surface they contact. The result of such abrasion varies based the metal being eroded. Erosion is mainly responsible for the development of river valleys. Transportation. The process of carrying eroded metals toward downstream along with the flow of running water is known as transportation. Transportation capacity of the river mainly depends on velocity of water, topography, and morphology of river channel. A river carries the greatest amount of sediments during flooding. The sediments load that the river carried can be categorized as bed load, suspension load, and solution. Bed load consists of heavier sediment particles like sand, pebbles, gravels, and cobbles that moves close to the riverbed or channel floor by rolling or sliding. Suspension load consists of fine particles of slate and clay that transported as a floating or suspension metal. Solution. Few minerals are transported in a dissolved state like limestone, salts, etc., which is known as solution. Deposition. The process of accumulation of deposited material when transportation capacity reduces. The deposited sediments do called fluvial deposition that takes place when velocity of river decrease gradient and change in river morphology. Alluvial fan, oxbow lake, delta are few examples of depositional features. Types of pattern of river channels: straight river, meandering river, braided river. The river that follows straight path. A straight river. The river that follows straight path originates at high or steep topography. Gradient high, velocity high. High erosion, mainly scoring than side cutting, and transportation capacity but low depositional capacity, mostly dominate at high hills and mountains. Meandering river, the river that follows zigzag path, originate at moderate topography, moderate gradient, low velocity, dominated by floodplain. Erosion and deposition occur simultaneously. Channel shifted. The deposition formed at the slope of a meandering river is known as point bar. Braided river bifurcated into several branches and may convert it to single originate at very low relief, low gradient, low velocity. Depositional rate high. Channel shifted, dominated with channel bars. Features developed by river expo or expo. Features developed by river expo lake. Develop in meandering channel system. Neck of meandering. Features developed by river Oxbow Lake. Develop in meandering channel system. Neck of meandering loop become narrow due to erosion, outer bank, and deposition inner bank process. Due to high flow, the river follows the shortest part, leaving the curved water body known as Oxbow Lake. Alluvial fan. When a river flows from a high steep hills into the gentle slope, its velocity suddenly drop and huge volume of sediments carried by the river are deposited, giving rise to huge broad cone or fan-like structure known as alluvial fan. The sediments of the alluvial fan consist of coarse materials like boulders, cobbles, pebbles, and coarse sands. Delta is also a similar feature like an alluvial fan, but it is formed where the river enters into the sea. Velocity reduces rapidly, and deposition of fine sediments is high. Floodplain. Floodplain. Floodplain are area of low and relatively flat land bordering the channel on one or two both sides at the river bank. The area is mostly submerged under water during flood time. Floodplains generally contain unconsolidated sediments like sand, gravel, loam, slate, and or clay. Terrace is an erosional phase consisting of several step-like plains along the river valley. They are formed by the down-cutting of a river or stream channel into the abandonment and lateral erosion of its former floodplain. Mostly terrace exist on both sides of the river bank.